Hey folks, this is Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge, and today we're taking another look at a neck knife. It is Friday, Fixed Blade Friday, and the knife we've got today is made by Cold Steel. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about CRKT Minimalist, and that's because I've had a number of people comment about that they'd like to see that in the review. And if you remember, maybe it's about a year ago now, I did the CRKT SPEW, S-P-E-W, acronym review, and I didn't really talk enough about it back then, how I really did not like the 5CR15 steel, and perhaps that came from more experience with it afterwards. You know, I've had 5CR15 in the past, a long time ago and stuff, and I was reminded after I'd had that minimalist for a little bit more time that I really don't like 5CR15. It's too soft. It doesn't keep an edge well enough. It's super easy to sharpen though, so it might be a good steel for a novice sharpener to learn how to sharpen steels very well. And there's a couple other issues with the minimalist line that I don't like either. One major one, and that is, you know, the handles are very, very skeleton-y. You've got systems like this with the finger dividers, but they're all dividers and stuff. It means it can actually turn, if you've got it in your hand like this, it means it can actually turn in your hand this way, side to side. Not super easily, but more easily than something like this that's got a section that's flatter and, you know, wider. You get it in your hand and it's not going to turn unless your hand wants it to turn. This knife, the Cold Steel Mini Tac line, which you can get in either AUS 8A steel or this one, which is 8CR13 MLV. Both of those steels I like a significant factor enough more than 5CR15 that I recommend it highly. I'm going to add in a comment on the top, the first pinned comment on the SPEW video, how I don't really like 5CR15. And that's why I'm not going to do a review in this neck knife series of in the CRKT Minimalist or CRKT SPEW line, even though they've got a lot of different knife designs. I don't want to take up too much time in this video to talk about that, but that's why I'm not doing that. So now we're going to look at the Cold Steel Mini Tac. And now the Mini Tac is a series of knives by Cold Steel that are neck knife series that there's 5 different types of. There's this Bowie, there's a Tanto, there's a Skinner, there's a what they call a beaver tail, and there's a, what's the 5th one? I wrote it all down. Kiridashi. So those are the 5 different types of Mini Tac knives there are now. They're not all under production still, and it's hard to find most of them. The ones that are easiest to find are the Tanto, and then probably this Bowie, and you know, some of the other ones are really hard to find, like the beaver tail one's really hard to find. But Cold Steel also made all 5 of those in a full serrated edge version as well, and I'll show you a picture of one of those. And so that's a fairly fine serrated edge. So you can get them so many different ways. The price range on these is wide and varied, anywhere from around $25 to $50. So if you're ready for all that, now let's take a look at the details of this specific individual Mini Tac, the Bowie. First, let's talk about materials that we've got here. Like I said, 8CR13 MLV steel, and the handle here is made out of what is called Grivex or Grivex, and Cold Steel used to call it Grivery. It's very much a form of FRN. It's not true nylon, but it's like fiber reinforced, good quality plastic. So I'm just going to call it FRN, or I might call it Grivex, but Grivex is the brand name. So what we've got is a thin layer on either side. We've got a pattern for the texture on it that looks sort of like bricks on a house. Kind of cool. And it actually offers a whole lot more grip than one would think just from looking at it. Because when you look at it on the side, it does look quite smooth. It looks like it's just, you know, a very thin cut in there into the pattern. But when you've got it in your hand, it really does offer a whole lot of grip, a tremendous amount of grip without creating any hot spots. This one edge here is a little bit sharp. Well, all the edges on the far edge. And so I'm probably going to take a little bit of sandpaper and knock some of that corner off. And that's about it. Other than that, it's a great texture on there. You've got this one finger divider coming out here. Very, very important. I'll talk more about that in just a second. I was talking about materials. Continuing on, let's talk about the sheath. First, we've got a chain. This is one of those chains where the balls are a little bit thicker than a lot of the chains that are out there. And so this is around the 45 or 50 pound test chain. Good quality. And the sheath itself, this is also some kind of, well, they call it Securex. It's a good quality sheath in terms of the retention of the knife in it. And they've got a little spot right there that they've not milled down, that they've created in the surface of it. And on the inside, that makes a click. There you go. Holds onto that finger divider right there. And it holds on tight. Now, let me get this chain out of the way. So I got that chain in my hand so it won't rattle. And if I shake the knife, no looseness at all. No shaking, no movement, no rattle. Very, very good retention. So I like that part of the sheath an awful lot. The holes in here are a little bit small. So if you've got some kind of system to make this hold onto a belt loop, or on your belt, I should say, a lot of them might not fit on here because of these holes being a little bit smaller. I wish they would have made bigger holes. The other thing that bigger holes would have done, it would make this sit flat. The chain would sit flatter on the surface. So if I go like this, you can see how the chain sits. It's really hard to get that to focus, but the chain sits proud of the outside of it. And if I pull it tight, that's as far as it can go. It might print just a little bit, but it's not that big of a deal because, you know, this edge here prints a little bit too. That's quite a bit bigger this way than it is on the rest of the handle. So, but that's pretty small. So it doesn't print an awful lot if you wear this under a shirt. It's very light and comfortable. The texture is pretty nice. And I believe this is fiber reinforced plastics, very durable. So let's put this aside. I do like the sheath. I do like the material on the handle. Now, I did have a video recently where I said I don't like FRN. And some people misunderstood me. They thought I was saying I think FRN is garbage. No, no. FRN is good in terms of its quality as a material. It's very durable, it's strong, and it can be made to any shape you want. It's a good material. What I don't like is how it feels in my hand. So that's a very subjective thing. But make sure that you understand, I don't think FRN is a bad product. It's just something that I don't prefer because of how it feels in the hand. So there's that. Now we've got the steel. 8CR13 MOV stainless steel is a good steel. It's a steel that I totally respect. It's a budget steel. It's got a HRC, so a Rockwell hardness of around 58. It can be less. It can't be much more and still be a good tempering that they did on it. Heat treat and tempering. I don't know how hard Cold Steel makes theirs, but I suspect it's 57, 58, right around there. They've done a bead blast on this, and I don't really mind that on this knife. I believe they did it because, you know, they're calling it Mini Tac, and they want it to be non-reflective. And the bead blast is one of the best finishes if you don't want a reflective steel surface. And so that's what they did here. Now, where I live, it's a very dry climate, and I don't have to worry about corrosion at all. Some people are concerned about bead blast meaning that the steel is then more susceptible to corrosion. I don't know about that because I've never lived in a place where I've had any problems with bead blast corroding more easily than any other finish. And I've lived in a number of places. I've lived in southwestern Ontario, Canada, which is right in the Great Lakes Basin. And it's very, very humid there in the summers. And, you know, I haven't had a corrosion problem with any of my knives when I was down there either. So there's that. I do like stonewash finish the best, and satin finish is quite good. Bead blast, it's just okay. I don't like bead blast too much because it's hard to see all the little distinct features. So if we take a close look at this knife, let's get it to focus right here. You know, we've got a saber grind. That means it's a flat grind that comes up halfway, or part way, I should say. This one comes about halfway, and it's hard to see that line right there where it transitions. And that's because it's so non-reflective in the light. But you can also see this swedge up here, along with this Bowie clip point here. So it's a curved clip or a radiused clip. And then there's a bit of a swedge on that clip as well. Very well done. The proportions are awesome. It's a very good looking knife. They've got 4 jimps on the spine there. That's what I'm calling them, jimps. And when your hand's in here, at least my hand's large, bordering on extra large. It fits right over 3 of them. It passes the one that's closest. But some people have smaller hands than mine, and so I think the placement of these is very good. It does offer some better traction. It does help out. I think I would have liked it better if they would have had the density in that space there, that they would have 8 little jimps. And then I think it would have better traction. The depth of these cutouts is pretty good. They're sort of round, and there's no real sharpness to them. But it's a good size of jimping that makes it feel good in the hand. The tip of the blade, I don't want to miss talking about that. The tip of the blade is quite nice. It's not super strong because we've got a distal taper as well, and that is the blade thickness is starting to come down, and it's just that last little bit here where it's tapering for the last 3/4 of an inch, the last almost 2 centimeters where it's coming down to the tip. And so it's a fairly good tip, not super strong, but it's a very delicate tip in the sense of you can do really precise work with it. So if you're holding it in your hand this way, putting your middle finger in that choil, and you get your index finger up here, you can do some really precise work with this knife in your hand this way. Let's get that to focus again. And so you got really good control doing really fine work. And so that's a good thing about it. And of course, a tip like this is also good for piercing if you need to pierce into something. So good design that way. We've got a nice radius on this belly, and then we've got 2 inches almost of a flat section on the blade, about at least 1.5 inches where it's just a straight edge. And you know, this is a good slicing knife, good cutting knife. It can do so many different tasks, and it can do them very well. And then we've got here a little sharpness choil, and then we've got something that most knives don't have. This part of the knife here, the steel is quite a bit lower than the blade edge. So as you can see, if you're going to go straight down on a flat surface, it touches right here before it can touch on the cutting edge. You'd have to come all the way off the edge to get it to cut flat on something. So if you want to get this knife and that's a concern for you, it's not that hard to grind that off, but you're going to create a shiny spot. It won't have the bead blast finish on it, but you could just take a file and take that down, or a mechanical grinding wheel, and and take that down a bit. So it's a very tiny concern. It's not a problem at all. I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. This part here sticks out the same amount, or maybe even slightly more. Yeah, even more. I didn't test this before. So that sticks out a little bit further down as well. So if you're going to be cutting on a flat surface, you need to be aware of that. Not hard to change, but it is what it is. So there you go. 8CR13, made in China. Decent design. I really love the design of the handle. You've got so much in this choil here, this forward choil, and then this big finger divider, that you've got a very secure hold on this knife. If you end up having to thrust this into something, there's very, very little chance, the littlest chance ever possible that your hand can go over the top of the knife blade. It just won't happen. Can it? Of course, anything can happen, but it just won't. And then if you need to draw it out, your hand's never going to lose grip either, as long as you just keep your fingers closed. The lightest fist is going to be enough to hold your finger closed over this to take it out. And then you've got a nice choil here for your middle finger. It's just an excellent grip system. So the printing on this knife, it says cold steel here, 8CR13 and China. At least it's not huge. I don't like huge printing on the knives. On this side, it just says Mini Tac. I've not tried to take these handle scales off yet. If it works just fine, I will include a still picture of that right now. Now it's time to go over all of the different dimensions on this knife. So clearly I found my tape measure again, and no, my grandson didn't move it. I simply had misplaced it and I found where I'd left it. I can be a little absent-minded where I leave stuff. That's one of the things that I'm very, it's very common for me to forget where I put something. So the Mini Tac Bowie 8CR13 MOV, Rockwell hardness between 57 and 58. If you get the AUS 8 version, the Rockwell hardness is very close to the same. Bead blast finish, I think probably the AUS 8 ones are bead blast finished as well. The cutting edge on this thing, how sharp is it from the factory? We got a sharpness rating of 175 when I was cutting. That's quite good, quite sharp from the factory. Now let's do the sizes. The length of the cutting edge is 8.21 centimeters, 3.23 inches. The length from the tip to the closest spot on the handle scale, 9.15 centimeters, 3.6 inches. The blade thickness is 2.76 millimeters. That's 0.1085 inches. The blade depth this way is 2.95 centimeters, 1.16 inches. The thickness of the edge right behind the grind, so right where my fingernail's overlapping right there, 0.45 millimeters, which is 0.019. So that's almost perfect for what I look for. I like to have this kind of knife be at 0.5 millimeter. The grind angle, when I first measured the grind angle on this side that says cold steel, it came out at 20.0. Perfect. Exactly the angle that I want to see knives like this at. This side here, is a little bit off, 21.7, which means this is one of the very best final grinds of any of the knives that I have measured. And I started measuring on February 1st. I think that's the date. And so since then, so for 2 months now, this guy is very close to the very best factory cutting edge in terms of the grind angle and the consistency of the grind angle. Very good cold steel. You guys are awesome. The handle length, and so I'm talking about the FRN material or the Grivex material, it is 8.36 centimeters, 3.29 inches long. The handle thickness is 8.8 millimeters thick, which is 0.346, so basically 1/3 of an inch thick. Most knives are about 1/2 an inch, so nice and thin. The handle depth, that's this dimension right here. It's the biggest spot right here. 3.38 centimeters, 1.33 inches. Oh, I should give you this dimension as well. I didn't mention this dimension, but it's on the screen right here. The grip area, so the space in here where you hold on to it, it's roughly 7.6 centimeters, about 3 inches. It's hard to say exactly what I should say, so it's about 3 inches when I measured it. The total length of this knife when the blade is deployed, 17.3 centimeters, 6.81 inches. So just a little bit under 7 inches for the full length of this knife. It weighs 80 grams, which is 2.8 ounces. When you add in the sheath, it is 124 grams, 4.35 ounces. So less than 4.5 ounces for the entire system. Not bad at all. The expense of this thing, I don't know if I mentioned that before or not. Well, I don't remember, I should say. It depends on where you buy it. The prices vary considerably. $25 to $50 is the general range. And I'll have links down below, all of the Amazon links that are below. And if I've got any links for White Mountain knives, those are links where you can either get a discount. The White Mountain knives, you can get a discount if you use coupon code CCE. The Amazon links, I do get a little bit of commission, but there's no way for me to give you a discount on Amazon. And if I've got links for other stores, they're just regular links for those stores. I don't get a commission, no discount. It's just a link for your convenience. So what do I think of this knife? The pros and the cons, my feelings about it. Well, I love this knife for a few reasons. As a neck knife, this thing's got a number of things going for it that are very, very good. It's thin and light, so it doesn't print very much, and yet it's a full-size blade. Well, 3-inch blade, over 3 inches. So that's a good thing. Light and easy to conceal under your shirt. The grip in your hand is super, super high. You get a very secure, solid grip, and, you know, that's a very, very important thing. There's very few knives that you get a better grip on than this knife. And so that's just wonderful. It's got reasonable materials for the price. You've got 5 different styles to choose from. The weight to size ratio is awesome. And that's a really good thing as well. It's a big, well, not a big knife. It's a good size knife at a very low weight. The balance point on here is right at that choil. I'd have to put some, there you go. If I hold it down on an angle, I can also balance it side to side. I'm tipping it down that way so the spine's lower than the cutting edge. So the balance is right where that index finger goes. Perfect. So that's a good thing. I could go on and on repeating myself over and over again like I often do on some videos. So that's the Cold Steel Mini Tac. I'm going to summarize at the end of the video series which neck knife I like the best. This guy is one of the front runners. Might be the front runner, but we haven't looked at everything yet. So stay tuned to this channel. I've got enough neck knives that it'll probably take me until July before I'm finished all of them. And July, I will be not making very many videos. I'm going to be going to Ontario to visit my mother one more time, probably the last time. Her cancer is slowly wearing on her, and it is a terminal cancer, so it is what it is. And so I'm going to go visit my mother for the month of July in southwestern Ontario and not make very many videos. I hope to finish this neck knife series before I leave. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And if you're looking for a knife, this Mini Tac might just hit the spot. Remember, guys, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.